I think the last time we had Dr. Sweeta here was months ago, and we said we wanted to do a follow-up because we were talking about breathing and how we were going to practice our breathing. And I said, you know what, but everybody procrastinates. Let's figure out how are we going to get on our discipline ourselves and keep a schedule and stay disciplined. So she said, let's do a talk on procrastination. That's a great idea. So it took us a while to get here, but a lot of you do know Dr. Shweta Adatier, but I'm just going to read her bio because it's very impressive. So I'd like to tell you that she is a very accomplished neurologist, currently leading the neurology department at Gargash Hospital in the UAE. She has over 8 years of experience in that region. She previously served as the medical director of the RAK Hospital for over 4 years. She completed her medical degree in Mumbai, followed by a paralytic stroke fellowship in Calgary, Canada. She's a fellow of the American College of Physicians and holds 13 gold medals in various subjects. She's worked across 3 continents, Asia, Central Africa, and North America, and Dr. Atatier's global perspective enriches her medical practice. She's received her healthcare MBA at Cambridge University, and she is the founder of the Neuromeric Assessment Program. She wrote a book called Future Ready Now, and delivered through the Zebra Brain app. Dr. Adatier empowers the next generation, our children, to map their brains for informed career decisions. And boy, do our kids need that. They really do. We're living in a crazy world and a lot of distractions, and the kids really need to understand who they are. Not only has she done all of this, but also she's excelled in music with a Bachelor of Arts in Harmonium. She's a table tennis champion, and her spiritual pursuits include training in pranic healing, hypnotherapy, and neurofeedback. And I guess her dedication and commitment to this field of medicine and neurology mixed with complementary therapies makes her so special. And I hope she is ready to speak with us today. Dr. Shweta, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Suzanne.
But I know you were not procrastinating.
No,
right?
100% not.
We had to put this meeting off an hour.
Yes. So what a wonderful evening. I think it's always great to see all of you here. And Suzanne has been, we have been talking for almost over a year, right, Suzanne? So welcome, everybody. I'm seeing a few of you who are also coming in so I run something called the Limitless Brain Club and Limitless Brain Lab. And we have been doing a lot of experiments when it comes to different yoga therapies, chanting, meditations, particularly for a lot of neurological problems. And yes, some of you having Parkinson's disease as well. So wonderful to meet each of you, Shirley, Edward, Sonia, Mindy. I think this is a very, very interesting topic because raise your hand if you have not been procrastinating ever in your life. It's almost impossible, right? We really need to find people who are non-procrastinators. So today, in this little journey of 45 minutes, we will try to understand procrastination from the point of view of the neuroscience. And please feel free to ask any questions at the end of the session. I like to make it interactive. So some of you who have beautiful cameras, I love to see your faces. You can stop me at some point in time. Let's make it a little bit interactive. Otherwise, I'll end up talking and you'll end up sleeping. That is not what we want. All right. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Wonderful. Am I visible? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Perfect.
Wonderful. All right. So let's see what is inside the brains of the procrastinators, aka hashtag all of us. Okay, that is what is all about. So Suzanne gave a wonderful introduction. I'm very, very thankful to all the teachers and all the patients and everybody who has been contributing to this beautiful journey, and we keep continuing. The Future Ready Now book, again, most support has come from United States of America. It is one of the top best-selling books. It was, or it is, sort of, it continues in the career awareness and health group. So thank you again for supporting that. This is the Limitless Club, or the lab which we run. Very interesting. It all started with my own experiences. I went through a significant emotional crisis. One of my childhood friends, very, very dear friends, 20 years long relationship, and one fine day that relationship is gone. And it was very painful for me. It was so painful that I did not understand how do I get my life back. And somebody told me, why don't you scan your brain and see what's happening? And I think that was the moment when I said, okay, that's a great idea. Let me see what is going on in my brain. And when I saw the one area which was lit up, and that is exactly the area which lights up when you are a heroin addict or when you are a significantly cocaine addict. So I said, which means the relationship, she was a dear, dear, dear friend. Let's put it that way. She was almost like a sister. So that de-addiction is almost like defriending. That was the time when I started to understand brain at a completely different level. I came out of that pain, couple of years it took me. I had to resort to multiple techniques, multiple people I had to meet. And when I did that, I came across peak performers. There were people who just had the perfect brains, and I started to wonder how can they do it. I started to ask questions which were very unique. For example, this is Nicole. She stays in United States only, but she was here in Dubai with us for many months. She stood on Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in Dubai. And when I interviewed her, she said, "It's okay. I can stand on Burj Khalifa. I'm a stunt person, no problems. But do not bring a needle near me." And I'm like, really? What happens in the needle? She says, I'll just collapse. So, how are these brain circuits working? It's just absolutely fascinating for me. So, we bring in musicians. We just had a Sufi practitioner also who is 6 years, a grandmaster who can swirl for 6 hours, rather. He can just do all the swirling. For example, he's a sitarist who just gets into the flow state, forgets where he is, what is he doing. And then I met this wonderful doctor, Dr. Kalai, who lives in India. He is something called the Shatavadan, which means he remembers 100 things all at once. So you're playing chess, somebody is tapping, some complex calculations are coming in. He remembers every single thing, and then he starts from 199, 98. So I was quite personally intrigued by each of their brains, and somewhere, I also wanted to have a non-procrastinator or sort of the peak performer's brain. We have limited lives and we have lots of things to do, so I thought, let's study this further. And that is what the limitless brains journey is. So we create, or we study these QEEG maps. We have FNIRS, we have other psychological markers, tools. We combine a lot of techniques to understand what is going on within the brain. I'll come back to these kind of scans in a while. But since we are talking about procrastinators, what is really procrastination? It is the act of postponing or delaying an action needlessly. You keep on pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. And that is procrastination. Now, most of you are having Parkinson's disease. Just for the people who are new to the Parkinson's disease, basically it is lack of dopamine leading to tremor, rigidity, postural changes, sleep issues, and multiple other GI tract constipation, etc. and all. And most important thing is movement. So the movement gets slow. That is what is Parkinson's disease. Now, there was a question which was raised by one of the patients saying, does PD actually cause procrastination? Because this was a patient who says, I actually have such little control left. I try very hard not to think so hard or too far ahead, but I just fail. What is really happening? Is PD causing it? So let me step back and say, thinking, if our thinking is limited, our actions become limited. And when our actions become limited, living becomes limited. Yes, for Parkinson's, I do have limitations. I have motor limitations. I have cognitive limitations. I have limitations when it comes to movement or to have the effective speed with which I want to do the things. But don't feel limited. This is very very important a message, because the brain can be tweaked into doing things, can be made to do certain things. And I'm going to share a lot of techniques also. It is not just going to be a theory. We will do some exercises. We will make sure that the head home sort of the message goes through, that although procrastination is real, breaking the circuit, fixing the entire brain is something which can be possible. So let's take a guess. When a survey was done, a large random survey was done to understand what percentage of people actually procrastinate. Can anybody throw any number? What this study could have shown? What would have been this number? Total number of and it was a grand study. It was huge data set, huge number of people which was studied. Yeah, Deepa, what do you think it would be?
90s.
Great, good job, good guess, 95%. So absolutely non-surprising, unsurprising number, right? Because this is how the brain is wired. This is how the neurons fire. This is what happens for most of us. There's something called the Parkinson's law, very different from Parkinson's disease. Okay, this is a law. And if we understand the law, so it's like, in good old days, why were laws? If you ask somebody in India, they would say laws are meant to be broken. That is the reason why you have laws. But laws are there to create some sort of an understanding or a boundary, right? Let's see what this Parkinson's law states. Work, and this is a very, very, very important and interesting law. Okay? Work expands to fill the time available for completion. Let me give an example. I had to prepare for this particular lecture. Let's say that I keep half a day. Then entire half a day that I have kept, I will utilize that entire half day for preparing this lecture. If I kept 1 hour, then I would finish probably the same thing in the time allotted to me. This is how the brain's wiring functions. So what a beautiful law, but we need to now start to exploit it.
Can you
Exploit it.
explain that again? Can you explain that one more
Yeah,
time?
sure. Very simple. Like, for example, Suzanne, we had to have a podcast. Okay, we are preparing for a podcast. Let's say you and me are on a show. Half a day is what we take to prepare. Let's assume that we give half a day. We give earmark that we are going to use half a day to prepare that. Entire half a day we will be using all our research, surveys, talking, etc., and utilizing that to fill that work. But if you and me decide we are just going to finish this in 2 hours, we'll finish the entire podcast, everything will happen in 2 hours, it will happen in 2 hours. The beauty is, how are you priming your brain? The way you are priming your brain, your time will be utilized for that work. So very, very important. Before you have a task at hand, please give it a reliable, realistic timeline to it. Do not go overboard. Do not make it too undercut. Make it a relatively average timeline. Then your work will essentially fill that time. So very, very important.
That is excellent. That is an
Yes.
excellent thing.
And
Yes.
start thinking in your life also. Every day you will be seeing such things. You'll come across. Today, this is classical example. This presentation is a very, very important example for me, because I thought I'll finish it in half a day. And exactly I took half a day. And there was another presentation yesterday, and I said, okay, I can finish it in 2 hours. And I did almost the similar sides in 2 hours. It's all about
You want to hear something very interesting? This is a little off, but I used to produce television commercials. We would produce a 60-second commercial, a 30-second commercial, and a 15-second commercial. You could say the same things in 15 seconds that you do in 60 seconds. And that was our time frame. And it was a frame that you got all your information in there. It was excellent structure. So time is structure. Time is structure.
Very true. And you're telling your brain, look, I have this, I have to finish this, and it'll happen. The beauty is it'll happen. Let's look at a little bit into the neuroscience of it. I often say I have romance with the brain. By the end of this session, every one of you should love the brain, because it is such a beautiful, wonderful structure. If I were just to study the memory of it, if I were to say, oh, what is the brain capacity, memory capacity of my one little brain surprising the entire Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building. Some of you have not been there. Very welcome to Dubai. Beautiful building. Entire Burj Khalifa will not be enough to stack all the memory that we have. 2.5 petabytes. And 1 petabyte is almost a million gigabytes. So it's just absolutely fascinating. If I were to run all the memory capacity of the brain, I would take roughly, give and take, 300 odd years of running a television 24/7. It is all happening in this one little box or one little brain. But let's see how we have evolved. How has the brain come in? Now, let's go great grandfathers where we were hunting. And when we were hunter gatherers, what was the brain's job? The brain's job was to feed the family. So the hunter's job was to hunt in, get the food, feed the family. But in that survival loop, the biggest thing what we understood was brain is the most lazy organ. It just does not like to work. The moment I have food, my day is done. I forget about tomorrow. I don't want to think about day after tomorrow. My job for today is to hunt the food and done. So brain is 25% taking the oxygen. 25% is huge. 1/4 of your body's oxygen is being taken down by the brain, but it does not like to work. So it has certain special nuances, which is very interesting. Okay, can you guys tell me what is this? Anybody can just, please make it interactive. I love when people talk in between, so I know that you guys are thinking as well. What is this?
You can unmute.
Ice cream is, oops, ice cream is good. Yes, all of you thought ice cream is good. Ice cream is good, but it is this perception. How you look at the thing, that depends on how your brain perceives. So most of the times the brain has a tendency to jump. It impulsively decides what is going on. And thanks to the two systems that we have system one, which is an impulsive system, quick, easy. I know this. It's ice cream is good and done. System two, little effortful. You need to think. You need to wonder. You need to concentrate what is going on. By the way, these two systems are parallelly running. As I'm talking to you, even if there is a choice to make, I will have access to system one and I will have access to system two. This study was done by the Nobel laureate. Anybody in the house who knows who did this study? Daniel Kahneman. Beautiful books, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. That is where this particular excerpt is coming from. So system one allows me to quickly think. System two allows and takes a little bit time. For the entire duration, please remember these system one and two. Brain looks complex. A lot of things are happening. There is networks and there are connections, trillions of synapses. But this is not going to be a neuroscience class. Okay, so I am going to make it super easy and simple to understand what is happening and what is the reason why we are procrastinating. Very simple. We have three brains. Okay, when I'm breathing, I'm actually breathing, my heart is beating, I'm talking to you, I'm alive. All of you are alive thanks to the brainstem. Brainstem is one little small area at the back of the brain. When I go a little bit up, I see something called emotional brain or limbic brain. Limbic brain is which is all about emotions, the valence. It understands love, care, threats. It is also about fear, fight, flight. And then if I go a little bit above where you see these dolphins, it is this part of the brain which is called the frontal cortex or the prefrontal cortex. Very, very important. Understand the hierarchy in which the brain is operating. Very, very important. So again, the little reptilian brain, which is the basic brain, I'm breathing because of that. The limbic brain, all my emotion, motivation, my behavior, everything is coming from that limbic. And the big system called the PFC or the neo-mammalian cortex. Very, very important, these three. Now, look at the difference between an animal's brain and human brain. When I talk about this, I always get reminded of this funny incidents which happened with me. I was doing my residency. It was a neurology residency, and there was a pathology exam which we had to go to. And then, the professor just pulled up and put a brain in front of me and said, "What is this?" I was like, what a simple question it is, right? I said it's a brain. It's a simple brain. And he says, go out. A second student walks in and same thing, presents a brain and says, what is this? Says, it's a brain, get out. The third student walks in, what is this? Brain, get out. All of us were tucked out and we wondered sitting outside, what is going on? Why did the professor chuck us out, After a little while, the professor calls us back and says, the brain that I showed to you is not a human brain. It was a cow's brain. And we're like, really? What was so special about it? There was a big brainstem and a very small cortex. So that is what is the basic brain in an animal, as you're seeing right up here. But for humans, we have a big prefrontal cortex and a very, very small brainstem. And the same is true for limbic system. What you're seeing in the rat, the orange, is a big limbic system and a very small prefrontal. And for the humans, just the reverse. Now, this is such an important and interesting piece because our limbic system understands only reaction. It is more of our system one thinking. And the prefrontal cortex is about the response. Okay. When a task comes to me, I don't think so I can do it. Limbic system fired. I have self-doubt. I don't think so this is possible. Who kicks in? Limbic system. Every single time something happens, it's a threat. In the good old days, lions and tigers were the threat. But in today's time, boss's email bomb, threat. I think he's going to fire me. Limbic system fired. My WhatsApp message comes and, for 2 days, the friend is not responding. The friend is upset. And in fact, that's already going on right now live with me. Friend is upset, threat, limbic system. So again, every single time that reaction is coming from the limbic cortex, just because it wants to protect you. It is just wanting you to survive, to be lazy, to stay where you are in your comfort zone. It does not want you to do anything. And when the response comes in, that is from the prefrontal cortex. Very, very, very important for people who we studied, the peak performers or performers who did exceptionally well. Think we have only 24 hours. All of us have 24 hours. But imagine the work that President of United States of America does, what you and me do. Just think, what does the Prime Minister of India does, or Prime Minister of Netherlands does. They have the same time. How do they do so many meetings? What is really happening in their brains? The one important thing what is happening is they know how to access this prefrontal cortex. When we studied these peak performers, we saw that their brains were symmetrical. Prefrontal cortex was very active. It was well tuned. All the right waves were happening in that prefrontal cortex, because of which insights, mood regulation, morality, intuition, attuned communication, modulating the fear, all of this was possible. All of us who are here, our job, even as PD, does not matter because PD is way down below in the dopamine in the substantia nigra. We still have this particular prefrontal cortex non-degenerated. We have to really make it powerful. Our job is to make it functional, extremely important. And this PFC building is nothing but the foundation for the extraordinary self. People who have very high functioning PFC, impossible to procrastinate, impossible to push things, impossible to stay in the comfort zone. They are always in the effort zone. Stress has been studied. People who are stressed and unfortunately, in our clinics, we see people with burnout. Today, I had a couple of patients with burnout, right? That is so disturbing personally to me because the reason is essentially because the limbic system is so outrightly firing, your prefrontal is shut. And that is the reason why emotions cannot be controlled, actions cannot be generated appropriate, discrimination is not there. Everything feels threatened, everything feels overwhelmed. So very, very important to take care of this PFC. Now, for me, these are the common, when I was thinking of procrastination, really, what are those little things that I procrastinate? Very simple and silly things came in. I don't like to pay my bills. I'll keep on pushing until the last, 2 hours left for the last credit card bill. And that's the time when I go ahead and pay my bill. Very strange, silly, stupid thing, but that's how the brain functions, right? Now, let's say the other thing which I have to do right now is writing the book. So that's a procrastination. So some of these things will, when you write it down, so I want you guys to do that little exercise right now. Write it down what you have been procrastinating. Let's take, I think, last 1 week. So the memory is fresh. Whatever is last 1 week's procrastinations, put it down on paper and let's hear it out. Let's hear it out from people. What has been the procrastinators? I mean, of course, hiring is one thing. I used to be working as a medical director of operations, and my job was to hire all the doctors and nurses, and it was such a procrastinating job for me. I would say, no, no, can we keep the interview tomorrow? No, day after tomorrow. I have no freaking reason and idea why. Okay. Until the time HR would just sit in my office and say, interview is right here and now. I would just keep on pushing it. So it's very, very interesting if we know, and in fact, today, as I was thinking about this topic, these things came out. So let's write it down. Let's write what are your things that you procrastinate. And if you remember it verbally, orally, very good. Just tell me what are those in the last week. I want to just understand, a little deeper into what are those tasks which people try to push.
I had to cancel a flight.
Uh-huh.
It's next week.
Okay.
I knew from last 2 weeks that I have to cancel it. I'm still waiting for the one more day to postpone. Every day at night, I feel regretted that why didn't I do it? It takes 5 seconds. I did not do it. I'm still not doing it.
Okay, Aditya, I'm going to ask the question why.
I think it's an effort that I have to make a call to the agent, explain them. That effort is like, that is boring, or it feels like, I don't want to deal with that now.
Okay, okay. Wonderful. Thank you. I have been doing that. I have to book some tickets and I've not been able to do that. Even sometimes you outsource, right? But it comes back to you because then you have to still look at those dates. So excellent. What are the other procrastinations of late? Fresh, oven fresh in your mind.
Yeah, I have.
Strength training. Yeah, please go ahead, ma'am.
Oh, no, you go ahead. Good.
Yeah, I'm Vidya here. Shweta, Doctor Sir, like I was procrastinating strength training. Basically, I wanted to start the strength training, but I'm not doing it due
Strength
to the
training.
fact that I'm lazy. I'm lazy,
Okay.
and I'm thinking to weigh how the weights are going to be, and I'm having all those overthinking. Will I be really able to do? Am I taking the proper nutrition and all those doubts? That's
Very
the
good.
thing I
Very
think.
important thing. I think your why is the doubts and the fear. Let's put it that way. And where is that fear coming from? Limbic or PFC?
Prefrontal cortex.
No, it's the limbic
No,
system, which is fight.
limbic.
Yeah, limbic. Fight, flight,
Limbic.
fear, freeze is all limbic. Okay, good. And Aditya's fear technically, or this that I will be talking, I'll be wasting a lot of my time. The agent won't respond to me. So it's also sort of fear of time loss. So again, remember, it's all limbic, which is playing a nice little game on us. Okay, any other
Is that the
procrastination?
amygdala?
Making a
Is that the
doctor's
yes.
amygdala?
appointment.
Yes.
Okay.
Largely it is amygdala. It has cingulate gyrus, hippocampus, parahippocampus, amygdala. Mostly the biggest culprit is little amygdala. It's a little almond-shaped structure. That's why, when suddenly something's happened, you go angry and you cannot control yourself. It's called amygdala hijack. Gone. When amygdala is gone, your prefrontal shuts down and you cannot, and then you wonder, I should not have said that. I should not have done that. That's too late. And that also can be trained. It's a little 90-second of a game, but let's talk about procrastination. Anybody else?
Making a
Yuki?
doctor's appointment.
Shirley, thank you for saying that. Why?
Because it's
We love to
something,
meet you.
it's something that I have to go do. It means I have to have somebody go with me, means I have to ask somebody if they have time to spend to go with me and bring me home. That's why.
Yes, yes. So I think it is your fear of disturbing others, or you have this that you will be upsetting somebody's schedule and
To
routines.
be dependent on somebody else,
Right.
not to be able to do by myself.
Right. Thank you, Shirley. Judith, anything that you have been doing?
Yes, technology. I finally bought a new printer. It worked when it was set up, and it's never worked since. And I haven't I just don't deal with it.
Thank you for saying that, because technology is a huge problem for a lot of, I think most of us in after a certain age, we would, because youngsters are very good at that, right? They can just quickly fix it and just, I don't know how they do it, but yeah, we keep procrastinating. I think the fear of something going wrong there, right? We may do something, or finally after doing a lot of things, it will still not work. Very likely. That is the
Yes.
fear. Absolutely. Any other thoughts? Anybody else?
So I
Akshay.
procrastinate. Yeah. So I procrastinate to work on my projects and presentation, and sometimes I try to be more perfect and follow more, you know, professors. I'm trying to be more perfect. So that is the reason
Thank
why.
you, thank you for saying that. That is what I wanted to hear, because why we procrastinate, there are certain very simple things why we procrastinate. One of them is we are afraid to fail. That is number one. We are afraid of being imperfect. Yes, Suzanne.
How about exercising?
Yes, workout, strengthening, exercise, diet, changes in the diet, using the technology, ticket bookings, bill payments. It's very interesting. These are the common ones for everybody. You know, all the human beings are the same, irrespective on the where do we live on this planet Earth. Sometimes we are overwhelmed, you know, like, oh, once I do this, then this will happen, and then this will happen, and this will happen. And sometimes we feel, oh, it's just a sheer waste of time. Like, you know, what do I do by, let's say, changing my phone into this? And we feel sometimes delegation is easy, but I have seen that delegation is an effective art and a task. How to delegate, what to speak, what not to speak, how much to give. I think delegation is even a difficult task than actually being a procrastinator. You know, it's such an interesting this way. Now, why should we care? What impact does it have really, you know, and in the procrastination? Because our job does not get done. You know, the quality of the work that I want, you know, the quality of the work can suffer, because last minute, right? 5 minutes to the presentation and I start to go and do the things, then quality may suffer. So procrastination is not a great idea. Deadlines can be missed. For example, Aditya's flight, possibly they'll not refund him whatever it's supposed to be. So there can be monetary loss. There can be for Shirley's appointment. You may have lost certain new, let's say, the change of the medications, what was to be done, etc. So the procrastination can cause serious hurt as well. And then, oh my God, the guilt which comes in, right? That's another loop which forms in the brain. I had to do a task, I procrastinated it, the stress built up, and now the guilt also comes in. So it's such a interesting this. There was a study which was done on students. There are two kinds of students. One kind of the students who never study until the term, until the last minute of the exam. The stress levels in the entire term remains completely normal. They are not stressed at all. And then just 2 days, 48 hours prior to the exam, their stress is off the roof. And then second, students who are doing continuously, you know, so they always have a little bit of a stress all the time. And during the exam, little peak is seen. It's not off the roof. So you know, these kind of the first category of the students are looking very chilled and everything happens. But at the last time, you're pushing a lot to your brain. Ideally, disallowed. Ideally, should not be done. Now, can I measure if I'm a procrastinator? Can I measure my thinking? What are the ways which are the representative functions of a procrastinator? The answer to all of that is a big yes. And that is what these modern scanners do, right? These QEEGs, quantitative analysis. We have different kinds of scanners, different kinds of things which can help to understand what is going on in my brain. How good is my PFC? How good is my limbic? What is the circuit which is happening? Why is my brain behaving in a certain way? Four fundamental brain waves that we have. I know some of you have been seeing this as a repeat, but it's a good revision. When I'm talking to you and you are thinking, it's beta, it's the fast rhythm which comes in. When I close my eyes, I generate alpha. For Parkinson's disease also, not major changes have been seen. So the brain waves still remain the same, exactly the same. Then I have a little bit of a slow wave called theta. When I go a little bit into deeper, let's say just before going to sleep, a deep sleep, I produce theta. When I'm showering, you know, suddenly all those wonderful ideas come in. Where are all these coming from? From these theta. And then when I fall asleep, it's delta. We have different waves working at different times of the day and different places. Now, my beta should always be here. If my beta is at the back, I will be extremely anxious. I'll start to worry for completely silly things. I had a patient, who said, what if my dog starts to fly? What if the ceiling roof collapses? So this is where what we call anxiety, where the beta is firing at the back. None of this is going to happen. It's, they say FEAR, the fear, the definition of the fear, false expectation appearing real. That has not happened. And still I start to think about it. That is what it can cause, the high beta. Now, if I have a lot of alpha in my frontal disc, does not really help me if it is not symmetrical, because it's slowing down my function of the frontal cortex. So every single wave is extremely important. When my brain was studied and my colleague's brain was studied, we did a pre and a post in multiple things. We saw some fascinating facts, very beautiful facts came out. On the left, when you see the theta, there's a little red thing blurb which is seen. This was baseline theta just after 5 minutes of a meditation. Only after 5 minutes, you see the theta which goes red. Red is high and blue is low. There's a scale which you are able to see on the thing which is blue to red. So in just simple 5 minutes, you were able to produce all the theta all across. Theta at the back and theta right here helps. It allows creativity. It allows an intuition. It is very good for relaxation. It allows you to have some out of the box ideas, new things. So anytime when you want to relax, you need alpha followed by theta. And we did these exercises in one of the breathing sessions. I still remember that, but let's revise that. There is this high beta on the left. This is my brain initially many years back. And by the way, I keep changing all the circuit structures the way I want it. I love to design it. Something is not working, I'll try to do something else. So it's all doable. Neuroplasticity. Everything can be pushed, moved in the brain. Please remember that as the prime this. Do not let your brain consume that if I have a disease, I'm going to remain like that. If I have a problem, neuroplasticity is big time coming in. It is true. It is a fact. And please consider that as and take it very seriously. So when I did this scan, a pre-scan, which was before my breathing technique called humming bee, everybody of you, each of the Parkinson's patient, my personal absolute recommendation is to do it for 5 minutes every single day, because what it will do is it will improve this high beta. You're seeing on the right red thing, and what you're seeing at the bottom here, coherence is very low in the pre, and suddenly the coherence becomes thick. So all the brain is now working together. It's working in unison. It's synchronously firing. And we need this for motor abilities. We need this for speech abilities. So 5 minutes of a prescription, literally like a prescription, please do that for Parkinson's as well. There are people, this is Dr. Kalai's scans that I was showing. There are people who have very high theta, very high alpha, very high beta, and absolutely fully functional brains or axis. So this is the peak performer's brain. Let's put it the highest type of the brain that you and me would want. So it's possible, it's very easily doable. And because of this neuroplasticity, if we are taking little techniques and we are trying to create a new mindsets, 100% new results also emerge. So I have a little daily formula. If you want to keep all these balanced, you want all the brain growth to happen, prefrontal cortex to kick in, it's called movers. Very, very, very simple everyday living formula. Very simple. I call it the 5 into 5. It's just simply 25 minutes of the thing. 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of humming bee for most of you in the Parkinson's this. 5 minutes of visualization that I'm perfectly fine. Everything I can move. I have no problems in attending to any of my tasks. My bladder functions perfectly well. Visualizing 5 minutes would make a huge difference in the brain's chemistry, in the brain circuit. Exercise, moving, very, very, very important. Reading something positive. Reading, do not wake up from, I always call it the delta to beta thing. You were asleep, nice delta was coming. Suddenly you get up in the morning with your mobile phones, beta. There's a lot of messages. Oh, my email. Don't do that in the morning. And then writing it out, what is bothering you. A lot of you, there'll be some hurts, there'll be something which didn't go well in your life, some things which really bothers you, could have happened long back, just write it out. It's a great therapeutic tool to let go of those emotions. Okay. Some of these things are also on my newly baked channel on the YouTube. So this is where it can be accessed. I'll give a little bit of a barcode also in the end. Lot of these things are coming out from the lab. I have a little lab in Cambridge as well as in Dubai. So we do all these experiments thanks to all the people behind the scene as well. Now, please remember the Olympic before the end of this session. Just to make you remember it a little better, I am going to put this picture. Limbic behaves like a little chimpanzee, absolutely unruly, absolutely crazy fellow who's sitting there and doing all the fight, flight, fear, and freeze business. Okay, but it is not allowing the prefrontal cortex to perform. There's a beautiful book called Chimp Paradox. All the things that about the limbic system is talked about in that book. Beautifully written book. You know how we need to cage this limbic. Is it possible to give a little banana? Feed this chimpanzee a little banana. Can it become quiet? Really no. You really have to have a very strong prefrontal cortex to actually keep the limbic under control. Because this limbic is all about, I want all my desires and it's my territory. Imagine how a chimpanzee does, right? They want all the food, and they're always sort of, very fierce, aggressive. Security is also very important for them. They do have an identity. So all this is also true for our brains, the little limbic brain that we have. So again, please remember, we don't want that chimpanzee. We want the prefrontal cortex to be built. This is a beautiful book that I came across from the habit building, because we're talking of procrastination. Only culprit for procrastination is this little chimp who says, I think you should not do it. It's self-doubt. I think you're hurting somebody. I don't think so. It's a good time to do so. Your job and my job is to now overrule that every single day and every day to overcome it. So this is a great read called The Now Habit. Now, starting is the hardest thing. Okay, the state data and statistics says if you start your job, very likely 90% of the times you will complete. The first 5 minutes you will feel miserable. Why you will feel miserable? Because now the chimpanzee has lost its control. It wanted you to relax. It wanted to be in a comfort zone. It did not want you to do it, and now that has lost control. So when you want to stop procrastinating, do it for only 5 minutes. Very likely you will complete the task. Very, very important. There's something called the Pomodoro technique. Very effective, very quick, because now you're stopping the limbic firing. So all of you who just talked about this, use this very, very simple, easy technique. What is that? I'll tell a little bit later about what is Pomodoro. And spend 5 minutes thinking, what if I did not do this task? What will be the outcome? Okay, beforehand you start thinking about the task. Possibly Aditya will lose some money. Shirley, as we said, would not have the opportunity to meet with the doctor. So please think, what if I did not do it? A little bit in terms of the outcome. And very, very important, take a break first and start the task. And caffeine is good, some water is good, because otherwise the brain will constantly be seeking that comfort. The chimpanzee would like to go and rest. So before that, you give a nice break, give a nice little fresh air, go and walk and say 5 minutes, I'm going to be on the task, and then I'm going to do the Pomodoro technique. It's all about sprinting. It's all about taking small little steps. So what are these steps? Very, very important. Choose a task which you want to accomplish, number one. Number two, set this timer to 25 minutes. It's basically a nice little timer which will ring after 25 minutes. You can also use certain apps such as Focus Booster, very important. Work on the task until the ring of the Pomodoro comes in, and then put a little checkbox onto your sheet of paper. By the way, for all of you who is here listening, and all of you with PD, without PD, please note that in the morning, the first thing, when you make a little checkbox, all you are doing is you are inviting the brain for that dopamine rush. So make that checklist. End of the day, please put that little check boxes as done. Your brain will fire all that dopamine, good feel chemical which will come in. So even the simple task of making a checklist and finishing it is very, very, very important for the brain. Don't keep it, somewhere in the mind. Oh, I will remember it. Please don't do that. Taking a short break, very, very important. Every 4 Pomodoros, when you do those 25 into 4, take a little long break, and very, very important, use certain tools which will allow you to do the things faster. For example, yes, I hate technology, but I love AI, right? Certain things you can just outsource to artificial intelligence. Certain things you can, I think Susan and me were talking about when we were preparing the initial presentation blurb. We said, oh, okay, why don't we ask the chat GPT to do it? Perfectly fine. It saves you time, it saves you energy, but edit it. Let your soul words also be there. You just don't want to copy paste and use that. And yes, get a friend to help to avoid procrastination, not by doing this. Okay. You want a friend who is accountable, who understands that we have to get this task done. Otherwise, the chimpanzee meeting and khalas, the limbic system is all firing, happy, happy, comfort zone. Let's do it tomorrow. There was only one procrastinator, 2, and then 3, and more the merrier. The procrastination 100% will happen. So get an accountable friend, get an accountable person. Very important. Very important rules when you are thinking about something, when you want to do something. For example, Suzanne wants to make a workshop. When you want to do a brainstorm, do not make it open-ended. Do not say, I will sit forever and then, keep on deciding, because the brains do not have the capacity to lock and perform the task unless it has a defined structure, defined time, defined outcome, defined process, and defined method. It is not going to happen. So always in the brainstorming sessions also, you need to have a little bit of a structure that we have 2 hours. Let's figure out this is our outcome, bring in all the ideas, and let's do it within the next 2 hours. Extremely important. It's okay. Just if you have to write something, please write any kind of completely idiotic, shitty draft. Does not matter. At least getting over those first 5 minutes, writing something down will break the limbic circuit. Limbic circuit is the most, I would say, advanced circuit in a way to allow us to propagate. Its only job is growth, survival, and propagation. Its job is not evolution at all. It does not allow us to perform through peak performance. It does not allow us to have, all the strengths and abilities, because it wants us to keep in this comfort zone and comfort loop. So we have to get over it. The best way is the first 5 minutes, allow it to quiet and get done the tasks. AI, lots of things are available. I think I have made it a plan in my life, and some of you can adapt that plan who are slightly younger, that every day you should spend 10 minutes learning some new AI tool. Do that, because all the AI tools are going to change the way we are going to work. Now, for example, right now, I have a little tool behind my phone which records all the conversation if it's a meeting, and automatically just gives me a summary. Very quick, right? I didn't have to do anything. I don't even have to open any other thing. Try to learn about one little AI tool which changes the way your life is happening. For example, the pill reminder. You don't need to stress about, oh, did I take the pill at 10 o'clock? Did I take it 12 o'clock? Just use some automated AI-driven tools. Will be very helpful for you. If you are a caregiver of Parkinson's disease, then put that, sort of a thing about even the exercises. There are so many readily accessible AI-driven co-pilots. We call it co-pilots. There is a diet co-pilot. There is a movement co-pilot. There's a co-pilot for sleep. All the data that comes in also, it automatically assesses it. So make use of smart co-pilots. And I'm a great fan of that as well. Now, please say no to those tasks which you have to say no, like, which is time consuming, which has no outcome, it's not serving you, and it's perfectly all right to say no. It is called the personal boundary. The limbic system has a very interesting fancy around it, right? The limbic system would like to always conform. What will the other person think? What if I say no? What if I do not participate in this particular exercise? If I don't come on this call, Suzanne won't like it, If I don't do this, this is not going to happen. The conformity bias is the primary mantra or the primary motive of this limbic system. So you will have to have a strong PFC to say no. Now, a lot of people ask me that what are the other ways in which PFC can be built? PFC can be built in multiple ways. The first and foremost thing is understanding consciously that this is my limbic firing. The first step, okay? Just simply understand whenever you are procrastinating, whenever you are in the fight mode, flight mode, you don't want to do things, sometimes fear is creeping you, please step back. Step back, observe that, give it some time, because the limbic firing is often intermittent, not continuous. It will come and go. If you are aware in those moments, you can capture those moments, reorganize how you are looking at a problem. We call it reperception, or changing that perception. Okay. If, for example, a certain thing is a threat to me, I think there is a deadline and I don't think so, if I'll do it, what will happen? Just take a step back. There is fear. Recognize that fear. Understand that, yes, I'm operating out of fear. Try to change the perception and ask yourself why questions. Why am I doing this? Why would I not do it like this? Just try to give it some space and time. It will effectively start. Simple tasks such as that will start to build PFC. The humming bee technique, very interesting, very important. The alternate nasal breathing technique, very important again to build the PFC. 5 minutes daily of that, amazing effects. Simple meditation, forget even hula, big meditation. Eyes closed, developing the alpha, simply just letting go of all the things, not even understanding what the meditation will do. Even simply these tasks allows your prefrontal cortex to develop. Now, all of us, you and me, when we are sitting idle, there is one important thing which is happening. And this is a great way of understanding neuroscience. Okay, you and me sitting idle, not doing anything. One part of the brain which fires, it is called DMN, default mode network. Default mode network always allows me to think about myself in the negative connotation and keep ruminating. Oh, I should not have done that. Oh, I wish I did that a little better. Self-doubt, always that kind of, self-egocentric projections. The DMN's firing or activation most of the times you don't like. And that's why there was a study which was done, and this was in States, a beautiful study which was done. I don't remember the author's name, but there are two groups of people who were given choices. The first group, either to stay alone, like you just don't do anything, you stay alone, or the second group, you don't opt to stay alone with yourself. We will give little 30 microvolts electric currents. 75% of the people chose to have electric currents and not to stay alone with themselves. If you think a little bit deeper, why would this be? Because you are overwhelmed by the DMN firing, I would rather have little electric shocks, 30 microvolts, than to stay alone, to stay with me. Now, imagine, I think Parkinson's disease and all the neurodegenerative processes and all, this is our life, right? Sometimes we may have caregivers, we may not have. And it is our job to get this DMN out of our way, because that default mode network will always allow us to feel negative, to constantly think about what in the past I could have done, this, that. Meditation, and enough studies are now available. In fact, today morning, there was a huge trial which was released. There was a functional MRI scan which was seen in people who were constant meditators. I think that was 10,000 hours of an average meditation, where they saw the DMN activity was the least, which means essentially no mental chatter. There's nothing happening which is constantly behind the scene talking all these fight, flight, fear, or freeze things. So beautiful ways. So simple things, very simple, but not that easy to do. Starting the day, extremely important, and ending the day, extremely important. In the first thing in the morning for Parkinson's patients, freezing can happen, right? You need to overcome that freeze because you've just started, you've woken up. Very important to start moving, to get some movement, fresh air. I feel 3 pillars for a healthy existential life is 3 things. Oxygen, very important, breathing properly. Second is sunlight, getting out, getting some nice fresh sunlight. And third important thing is grounding. If you have the opportunity, if you have a little porch, if you have a little area where you have little grass, you can walk on the barefoot on the ground, Very important. Why is that? There was a study which was done, very powerful study. There's something called shamanic frequency. Earth has shamanic frequency, 7.8 hertz, roughly between 7 and 8. The moment you walk barefoot, automatically your brain generates this 7 to 8 hertz alpha. Quickly, almost immediately the brain does that. Very important to relax. Very important for calmness. All of the people who will be feeling little anxious also, frozen also, little bit difficult movement also, immediately it works. So having 5 to 10 minutes of that grounding routine also helps. There are some mattresses also nowadays, by the way, available for grounding. Some people ask me, is it good? Yes, if it's zero this, it helps. But natural is natural. I strongly feel, going back to the nature, helping from the 5 elements is always the best thing to do. All these theta hacks, the time you fall off to sleep and the time you wake up, very, very important. Put in your brain, visualize it that I'm perfectly fine. I will get better. My motor movement will improve, everything, whatever you want, and it will happen. Avoid reading anything which is email, WhatsApp, social media, particularly the first thing in the morning. I never knew before this presentation there was a little book on it. Imagine the entire big book saying, don't read email the first thing in the morning. That's all. That is the message of the book. So how much of a damage, how much of a thing that we are happening in the brain just by doing it. So having the perfect morning purposeful routine is extremely important and necessary. My last 2 slides, particularly for Parkinson's disease, use the most available time, the time when your levodopa kicks in. That is the time when you're mobile, when you're active. So all your tasks, schedule it during that time. Don't procrastinate, because now the levodopa effect will also go away and you possibly will have less of that time. Plan your tasks well. Very, very important to plan them, and make sure that you sleep properly, and make sure that your wake up routine and your sleep routine is perfectly orchestrated. Right on time, right exactly the way it is required, and visualize that when you go to sleep, perfect morning you are going to be perfectly fine. When you wake up in the morning, visualize. I think last time I showed this trial, I'm skipping it for the purpose of time today, but very, very important to make sure that you visualize that you're perfectly healthy, you're perfectly fine. In fact, there was a study again which was done for people, and somehow serendipitously I just have that as a habit. I did not read this study before, but this study now proves or validates what we have been doing. Every day night before I go to sleep, I in my mind replay the entire day, how my day is going to be. Exactly, right from the time I wake up to the time I go to the office, to the time, even if the driver, not driver, every little thing is visualized. Now remember, the brain does not understand between real and what you are thinking as visual. So what will brain do is start to prepare all the chemicals. So basically I'm already prepared for the day tomorrow, today night. And that is a beautiful way to access and hack all the right chemicals for your day. Some things will go wrong here and there, not that it'll perfectly happen exactly what you visualized, but very important to keep calm, very important to be efficient, very important to allow you to have all the best things, best brain, let's put it, best circuits for life. Now, same thing you can do for your week, same thing you can do for your month, same thing you can do for your life. I'm a huge fan of visualization. I have a little course on neuromanifestation on Udemy as well, which really helps, Let's do one little exercise before we stop this for questions. All of you, sit straight wherever you are. Let's do just to see how visualization is uber interesting and powerful. Okay. I want you to close your eyes. Wonderful. Now, all of us, beautiful people, wonderful people, we're very privileged and thankful. We have these big fridge, in our houses. I want each of you to think and visualize that you're walking towards your fridge. It's a nice big fridge, lots of magnets, right? You've been to Philippines and you've been to Canada, you've been to US, wherever you've been, there's all lots of magnets. Now, you're going to your fridge and you're opening the door of the fridge and you see a lot of food. There's a lot of stuff which you cooked last night. Everything is there. but there in the center of the fridge, there is little lemon. I want you to pick that lemon up, take it in your hand. It's a bit cold, which is okay. Quickly go to your kitchens and find a little knife with which we will break the lemon into 2 pieces. You found your knife, the lemon is a little cold on the outside. It's a really nice, fresh lemon, what you just got off the farmer's market. I want you to cut it into 2 pieces. Wow, it's juicy, extremely fresh. And I want you to put that lemon in your tongue and feel the sourness or the gush of that wonderful lemon what comes in. And slowly open your eyes. How many of you had salivation? How many of you salivated? There was no lemon. It was a visually thought of a lemon, right? Your saliva happened because it's physiological. Your brain does not understand. Please understand this. The moment you visualize, the brain is already preparing all those chemicals to help you. So visualization can really be powerful. Do not let limbic come into play. Limbic otherwise will say, what is all this? You don't need to do all this. It's completely useless, helpless. Don't let the limbic come into play. So with that, thank you very much. I'm always grateful for this opportunity Suzanne gives me, because I get to meet all of you again and again. It's like almost like a family, right? I think we are coming in for the 3rd or the 4th time. And some of you new people also, I think Deepa, Akshay, Aditya and all, thank you again for being here. Before I close, any other ideas that you have on procrastination, please shoot. Anything that we can do together.
Dr. Shweta, you are awesome. I mean, really, this was an incredible presentation and something we recorded, so we will share it because it's something to watch over and over again.
Perfect. Thank you, Suzanne.
Please, any questions? We'd love to have you. We have Dr. Shweta here with us now. Let's take some of your questions.
Doctor, I want to know, you discussed about the checkbox checklist, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So which one will be more effective? Is it on book or on my system, laptop?
So I'm still an old timer. I like the pen and paper because there are studies which says that your more wiring and the brain functions happen when you write it down. Digitally, it's not causing the same effect. So I still have a pen and a paper and a typical old time diary. But yeah, it's still okay. If you want the dopamine, same dopamine comes in whether it's digital or it's written. But very important to plan that, to do it and put it like a little checkbox and give reward to the brain. That chimpanzee wants some rewards, give bananas end of the day. Happy, it's happy.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. A lot of people, when they see their progression happening, they think that's where I'm going to be. I'm sticking there. Please just talk to us about that. You mentioned that you don't have to.
Correct,
right?
Correct. First of all, let's understand who is doing that. That self-doubt, that fear, I think this is the end of life. I don't think so I can get better than that. Remember, it's your chimpanzee. It's your limbic system which is doing that. If you start to overrule it, if you start to, first of all, believe and first of all, be grateful that you still don't have cancer or any big thing or anything which is non-treatable. So first being grateful and then trying to at least have that visualize, very powerful. I'm not talking of self-doubt visualization here. That you can walk or you can do all the tasks and all. Try for 66 days. I can really bet on it. I think we were talking about breathing exercises last time. I don't know how many of you tried that. 66 days, it is good enough for an atomic habit to be built. Once you do it for 66 days, you're good. You have already laid down a little bit of wiring and it'll keep you to keep growing. Then the brain has no limits. How you start for 5 minutes and you're done. Same way you do it for 66 days and you're done for life.
Very good.
Doctor, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt. I have a question. I have Parkinson's. I'm young onset. My question is specifically when my mind is in default mode, as you mentioned, there's a lot of negative ideologies creep up. And levodopa usually just lasts for 3 hours. I have my neurologist, I'll talk to him, but it's only temporary, right? But the majority of the default state is more. especially I'm a software engineer, I work hard. By the time it comes to 5:36 p.m. of my time, my mind is so tired that it's really hard for me to get back to that active mode. Even though I take the tablet, it takes a lot longer, and there's all these negative emotions, everything creep up.
Correct. Correct.
What?
Correct. So
Yeah,
start
what
doing
is the
humming
solution?
bee. Start doing humming bee. Anytime when you
Okay.
feel fatigued, when you feel drained, there's no energy left. Humming bee, simple looking things. We don't like simple things. Quite frankly, we like all the big hulas in life. We don't really like very effective, simple things. We have tested in the lab. Believe me, it just does wonders. So practice humming bee, and there is no contraindication. There is no side effects. There is nothing that will happen. At best, it will have a little less effect, but it's super powerful. Really good.
Understood. So my final question here is, if I visualize really, really hard, if I truly believe that I'll be reversing the Parkinson's eventually because I'm too young, I will eventually go up. I truly believe myself. Are there any studies that it will eventually happen, or technically?
See, technically everything is possible to happen, right? Visualization is not, we are not just saying that, okay, just put it in the visual board, go and read it. You really have to feel, you have to make those chemicals. You have to feel that you're walking well. You have to feel, and it's a real in-depth feeling. And believe me, that limbic system will fire. That self-doubt will come. But it is your job to first understand the principle. Why am I doing it? I did not show one of the studies, but it was a very nice study where two groups were studying. One was doing the physical playing of the piano, and the second was doing mental rehearsal of the piano notes. After 3 months, the physical group of the piano and the mental rehearsal of the piano, both of them had the same amount of the brain cells which were there. Same amount. There was no change. Why is that? Otherwise this was not possible. So, which means you can regenerate your cells, which means there is neuroplasticity possible with that. So don't just use it as some, poster visualization. You have to really feel it. You have to give time to it. You have to use your self-doubt outside. You have to really make it happen. It's possible. There are people who can do it or who have done it, not that, but yes, effort. You have to also keep taking your levodopa. You have to keep doing all other stuff that I talked about. Physical activity is very important. Natural dopamine agents, very, very important. Mix everything together. First of all, don't feel yourself as less privileged just because there is a Parkinson's disease. As I said, first start having gratitude practice. Gratitude practice has huge
Effect.
implications. Huge implications.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Where are you located? Which part of
I'm from India, but I'm in US, Columbus, Ohio.
Where in Ohio?
Ohio, yes.
We are doing a workshop called Mindful Neurology with Dr. Sarah Mulakutla, who I wanted to come to this. I'm going to introduce you. And it's something that I think if we come together and work and connect with each other and bond on this subject, and then everybody can go away and practice and be accountable for each other, that could really help also. So we're starting to do a workshop like that.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think accountability is the key because, we lose the motivation and then we feel self-doubt. There's nothing happening. So accountability is very important. Consistency is very, very important. Belief in the particular technique, we wouldn't have placebo effects otherwise. I always tell a patient, that why would there be a placebo effect if it is just about the belief that, this is going to help me and that's it. It helps, right? There's something called nocebo. If I give a tablet and say this is not going to help, it does not help. So all this is possible. Mind is, we didn't talk about mind. We're just talking of the limbic brain and all, but mind is such an interesting functional element of this body.
Okay, well, you'll tell us our next webinar that we're going to do with you in the winter, okay? This is so positive and so uplifting that I hope it inspired everybody, really. Thank you very much, Dr. Sweeta.
Thank you, everybody.
So grateful. We are grateful to have you.
Thank you for the invitation. And see you, everybody. Annette, some of you who did not speak to me, Sonia, Rachel, Alan, Arki, Ron. I'm always available. My last slide, Suzanne will put it further. If you need any questions, any concerns, anything is there, more than happy to connect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.